Hi everyone, this is assignment 2 and I wanted to walk you through a few questions from assignment 2. I kept the questions exactly the same except for these values that I changed a little bit so that you can do your assignment on your own. But otherwise it's going to be helpful if you're still confused about the balance tables of banks. So this question number 2 is asking us, using partial balance tables, show what changes occur to Bank of Canada's and the Chartered Bank's balance table if Bank of Canada is selling $1,000 worth of bonds to the Chartered Bank. Here Bank of Canada is selling the bonds. That means it is reducing the amount of its bond holding by $1,000. This is Bank of Canada's balance table. So on the asset side of Bank of Canada, I'm reducing bond holding by 1,000, and the same bonds are now going to be transferred to the Chartered Bank's balance table on the asset side, because bonds are always assets. So I'll add $1,000 worth of bonds to Chartered Bank's balance table. In return of these bonds, Chartered Banks now will have to pay $1,000 to Bank of Canada. And the way they pay Bank of Canada is they just authorize Bank of Canada to reduce their deposit account by $1,000. Chartered Bank's deposit accounts at Bank of Canada are called reserve accounts. And these reserves are Bank of Canada's liabilities and these Chartered Bank's assets. So now Bank of Canada is liable. Bank of Canada's liability to Chartered Bank is reducing by $1,000 in terms of their reserve holding. Now this reserve is Chartered Bank's reserve, which is Chartered Bank's assets, so I have to keep record of that reduction by $1,000 in the Chartered Bank's reserve account. So now the changes in both sides are equal in both of these institutions' tables. So that's it about that question. Question 3 is asking us, assume a desired reserve ratio of 10%. A check for $100 is drawn on an account in Bank B and deposited in a checkable account in Bank A. So here Bank A is getting a deposit of $100. Deposits are liabilities. And this deposit check was written by a customer who has an account in Bank B. So when the customer in Bank B withdrew $100 by writing a check to somebody who has an account in Bank A, their deposit is going to reduce by $100. Now, once this check is deposited in Bank A will contact Bank B by saying, hey, one of your depositors wrote a check that was deposited in my bank, so they want this fund to be in my bank, so give me the fund. And Bank B simply transfers the fund to Bank A by authorizing its reserve to be reduced by 100, which will be added to Bank A's reserve. This is deposit here, and now the changes in both sides look like equal in both of these banks. Part B is asking us, as an immediate effect of the deposit, how much have the excess reserve of Bank A increased? Notice that Bank A has received a fresh deposit of $100. If desired reserve ratio is 10%, then out of this $100, Bank A will now keep $10 as a change in desired reserve, and the remaining $90 of change is now exchanged in excess reserve. So Bank A is now going to try to find borrowers to lend this $90. So as an immediate effect, the excess reserve in Bank A is $90. So I'll just write $90 as an answer to part B. Part C, how much in the form of new loans is Bank A now able to extend to its borrowers? Excess reserves are the amount that banks are willing to lend. So $90 is the amount it will lend. D, eventually by how much shall the total money supply increase in the economy? Now notice that here in the entire banking system there was no change in deposit. One of the banks lost a deposit which was just changing hand and getting into another bank. So the net change in deposit in our banking system is this positive 100 and this negative 100, which is 0, and therefore in our entire banking system the total money supply is going to increase by 0 amount. Question 4. A bank has $100 million in total assets, which are composed of desired reserve, loans, and securities. Its only liabilities are 100 million checkable deposits. So on the liability side, we have only checkable deposits. And on the asset side, we have divided this money up into some desired reserve. We don't know how much that is. Sorry, my text started jumping. We don't know how much that is. And it also has some loans and securities. Now they're saying the bank exactly satisfies its desired reserve ratio and total reserve equals 5 million. So they're saying the total reserve is exactly the desired reserve ratio, and that amounts to be 5 million. What is the desired reserve ratio? So that means out of this $100, it is giving $5 as desired reserve, and that also means, by the way, that it has given $95 as loans and securities. So the desired reserve ratio now is very simple. This 5 out of this 100. So 5 by 100 gives me simply 5% as desired reserve ratio. Question 5. Assume a 5% desired reserve ratio, 0 excess reserves, no currency leakage. That means people don't hold money as currency, they hold money only as deposits. And a ready loan demand. That means whenever banks give loans, people take it. The Bank of Canada buys $100 of treasury bills from Scotiabank. Now, question A. Out of this $100 received, what is the maximum amount Scotiabank can lend while maintaining 5% reserve ratio? So notice that here Bank of Canada is buying $100 of treasury bills from Scotiabank. So on Scotiabank balance table, asset and liabilities, balance table, Scotia is losing $100 of bonds, and in return it will get $100 of cash reserves from Bank of Canada. There is no change in Scotiabank's deposit, and therefore whatever reserve it is getting from Bank of Canada is its excess reserve, which means it can lend this entire amount now. So maximum amount Scotiabank can lend here is $100. What is the potential money multiplier? If banks are keeping 5% of their deposit as desired reserve, then reserve ratio is 1 over 0.05, which is 5%. By the way, be careful, 5% means 0.05. Do not write 0.5. 0.5 would actually mean 50%. So potential multiplier is this. If you throw these values in your calculator, it will turn out to be 20. C. By how much will total deposit rise in the economy eventually? We know that change in total money supply, i.e. total deposit, is equal to initial change in reserve, which is positive $100 in our case, times the multiplier in our case. So that's going to be a change of $2,000 in this particular case. D. Assuming banks keep no excess reserve and people hold no currency, fill out the blanks in the following table. So Bank 1, i.e. Scotia Bank, got $100 of fresh deposit, for example. If it holds 5% of its deposits as reserve, then it will hold $5 as reserve and lend the rest of the money, which is $95, and eventually that $95 will come into another bank account as deposit. And that second bank will keep 5%, 0.05 times this $95 as reserve and lend the rest of the money, which is 95%, 0.95 of those $95 as loans. Eventually those loans will become deposit in another bank. So this process will go on, and we know that the total deposits in the banking system will be the initial amount injected by central bank times the multiplier 1 over 0.05, which is 100 times 20, which equals 2000, i.e. $2,000. And the total reserve will be 5% of this $2,000. 0.05 times this 2,000 gives me $100. Part E is asking us, if people hold more currency and banks keeps excess reserve, explain whether multiplier and money supply will be greater or smaller. Of course, if people are holding more currency, that means they are giving banks less money to lend and create multiple deposits. So in that way, money supply will reduce. Also, if banks are afraid to lend and just holding on to their reserves, that means there are less lendings and therefore less consecutive deposits. Money supply will shrink. So in each of these cases, money supply will be smaller. I hope this will be helpful for you to do the assignment. I'll try to come back with more answers later on. For now, I'll say goodbye.